But first, it is totally unacceptable that Melbourne, Australia's second biggest city, is close again to being shut down by a virus outbreak. What a failure of public policy. Now, surely, after more than a year, we cannot keep fighting the virus like this. So to Australians, go get vaccinated. This breakout wouldn't be a problem if you'd had your jab. And to South Australia, smarten up. This virus broke out from your quarantine hotel. Apparently, we're told today, they're not quite sure, but because of something as simple as people opening their room doors at the same time. Can you believe it? And to the Morrison Government, get off your backside. Show leadership. Or you will face more embarrassment like the kind that was all too evident in Parliament today. Show you that in a second. 15 people in Melbourne are now confirmed infected, 5 of them overnight. And it's touch and go with the city, 5 million people, is going to go into its 4th lockdown. It already holds the record in Australia for the longest, 111 days.
What's clear is that our public health teams are working very fast to test, trace and isolate this outbreak. These cases are linked, and that's a good thing, but we are very concerned by the number and by the kind of exposure sites.
Tomorrow we should know, but we can't keep shutting down Australian cities every time there's an outbreak. The ripple effects of this one alone, I mean, Australians are once again worried, do I dare go interstate? The border with South Australia, boom, shut tonight. The Morrison Government, I have to say, has some explaining to do here. Strike one against it. We have had now 17 outbreaks from quarantine hotels that were not built for this critical job. Now, when the Prime Minister was challenged on this today, where are proper quarantine facilities, he had no real answer. It was just so much bluster that the Speaker, also a Liberal, tried repeatedly to get Scott Morrison to give a straight answer.
How many more outbreaks do there have to be until the Prime Minister understands that he needs to do his job and deliver a safe, national, purpose-built quarantine system?
Well, there you see it, Mr Speaker, the bipartisan display in the fight against the virus, Mr Speaker.
He's had the preamble. I'm making myself very clear.
Direct reference to the quarantine system put in place by the government with the states and territories.
OK, well, I'm going to say to the Prime Minister he can
Cabinet.
pause. He had done that and he'd moved on. And I'm asking you to return to the question.
Happy to do that, Mr Speaker. So
I don't care whether you're happy or not.
Okay.
You need to return to the question.
Second strike against the Morrison Government. You look around the world now. Countries that were absolutely smashed by the virus, Britain and the United States, are now opening up after a huge campaign of vaccinations. But Australia, which was barely touched, now looks close to shutting down Melbourne. And blame that on the fact that just 1 in 8 Australians have so far had a vaccination injection, and just 1. In the US, half the population is now fully vaccinated. Half. In Britain, more than half have had at least 1 injection, but here, just 1 in 8. And none of the infected people in this Melbourne outbreak, some of them over 50, they could have got an injection, were vaccinated. Not even a doctor who was treating some of them was vaccinated. Which left the Federal Health Minister in Parliament today also with nothing to say, just bluster in a response to a perfectly justified question.
How many of the Victorians infected in the latest COVID-19 outbreak were vaccinated?
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I'm happy to seek that information from the Victorian Government.
Minister for Health will resume his seat. I've now asked the Minister for Health to resume his seat for the 3rd time. The Minister for Health can resume his seat, full stop. I'm not going to be ignored. We'll go to the next question.
So you see the problem. When so few people are vaccinated, we get Australians terrified by just 15 infections in a city of more than 5 million people. And of course, you can blame this exaggerated fear these days, not just of the virus, but of the vaccine. I mean, 1/3 of Australians are telling pollsters they've got no plans to get vaccinated. Many seem scared of the very tiny risk, about 1 in a million, of dying from blood clots from the AstraZeneca vaccine. which is a risk, by the way, that 20 million Britons happily took with exactly that vaccine. And that's strike three against the government. Where is its big advertising push to reassure us? Set us now on top of the clotting problem. They've got ways of treating that are much better. But there's a fourth failing. I hear people say, why take even the tiniest risk with a vaccine? Well, the chances of dying in Australia from the virus is now close to zero. The borders are up, our cage is comfy. Well, now we've been reminded, by the way, we can't count on our quarantine hotels, can we? Always keeping the virus locked out. And when our borders eventually do come down and we're free again to travel overseas, yes, some people will probably die when some of those travellers come back. Like they die each year of the flu being flown back here. But that's exactly why the Morrison Government is keeping those borders shut, you see. What a catch-22. We won't get injected while the borders are up, and the borders can't come down until we do get injected. Catch-22. And it won't change because the Prime Minister is reportedly planning to go to an election sometime in the first half of next year. So there's zero chance it's going to open the borders before then. People know this. There's no way it's going to risk having even one extra Australian infected this side of an election. And so we're all frozen in a political limbo. And look what we've got. Panic with every breakout, and this virus will keep breaking out until enough of us get vaccinated. Is not a problem, but is that really how we must live? Wouldn't it be great to live like adults again, bold and free? And vaccinated, of course. Please get your shot.